There we go. Thank you for watching me. This video is my comments on a Kent Hovind debate. I'll put the link to the video of the debate in the comment in the description so you can watch the debate for yourself if you want. Let's start off with who won the debate, Kent Hovind and his teammate or the other side. It was a 2-on-2 debate. Definitely Kent Hovind won the debate. The other people didn't really even try, it seems. At one point they said something like, we are not biologists. Well, they should have asked biologists before the debate. They should have looked into it a little bit. If there were really good points they could have made, and they're right in general, hey, maybe, but they definitely lost the debate. Unless your definition of winning a debate is making accusations at your opponent without backing them up with an explanation or evidence. They use the word sophistry several times. They are using sophistry. Oh, really? But they never explained it. Now, it's completely legitimate if you're like getting ready to go to work or somewhere you have an appointment and you're at home and your kid says, "Daddy, guess what I just learned in school? Guess what I heard on the TV?" To throw out a quick accusation. That's a half-truth. That's sophistry, and then go. But they were at a debate. They had time to talk. Instead of spending their time talking and explaining what was the sophistry or what was the other half of the half-truth, they just chanted at least 5 times. So one guy with the grayish hair and glasses said he said, "They've just given you half-truths," or something like that. Half-truths. At least 5 times he said it. That's not an argument. That's an accusation. That's not an explanation. Now, maybe somebody could say that the evolutionism side of the debate won if they already decided they believe that, and they're going to say that that side won no matter whether they won or not, no matter what actually happened in the debate. Let's see, so Kent Hovind, one thing he talked about was fruit fly experiments. There have been a lot of experiments where fruit flies are irradiated to encourage mutations. And those mutations will be random, which is what evolutionism requires, the random changes resulting in the first single-cell animal becoming a plant-eating animal and continuing to branch offward until we have all the things that we have now. But for something to be scientifically proven and not just a story that somebody tells or what somebody believes, an evolutionist, they're free to believe that religion all they want, but it should not be taught in a science classroom, and they should not call it science if they don't have proof. Scientific proof would mean it is happened in front of the eyes of a person who's alive, or who was recently alive and wrote about it. And it can be done again. It can be seen again. And so these fruit fly experiments are trying to prove evolution by turning the fruit fly into something, anything. That's not a fruit fly. What they ended up with were deformed fruit flies, with wings that it couldn't fly with there was a no-wing version, but it was still a deformed fruit fly, and it did not become a mouse or even another kind of insect. It did not become a cockroach or a spider or a somebody's yelling at their computer right now. He's so stupid, he called it a spider. Spider, insect, or anacrid. So spider, it didn't even change into one of those. They were just deformed fruit flies. And Kent Hovind pointed that out, that they these fruit flies remained fruit flies, but Kent Hovind didn't also point out those experiments would have been a success in proving evolution if the fruit fly had become something else, but it didn't. And yes, yeah, I like Kent Hovind's response. One of the people that he was debating against claimed to be a theistic evolutionist. Can somebody really believe in God and believe in evolutionism? Yeah. The way Kent Hovind explained it was something like this. A God who needs to use evolution is a stupid and incompetent God. He's retarded. If he can't get it right the first time and he has to use millions of years of suffering, of pain, of misfits to get it done, that's not a God worth worshipping. And I agree. I would not want to worship a God who's so stupid and incompetent that he can't make things right the first time, that he has to use millions of years of pain and suffering and misfits. If you're an atheist and the only kind of believers in God that you've met are the ones who believe that, I congratulate you for being logical. But find a different kind of believer in God, because there really is a God who's smart enough and intelligent enough to get it right the first time and actually make things, and not just set in motion utter chaos. Okay. And the one guy who was a theistic evolutionist at one point in the debate said there was an ad hominem attack, I'm going to ignore it or something like that. I didn't hear any ad hominem attacks. If you watch that video at the debate and you see an ad hominem attack, please put a comment, tell me how many minutes in it was, and I'll type an apology if there really was an ad hominem attack. But I have never, in all of the many hours of watching Kent Hovind debates, heard him give an ad hominem attack. Not just in this debate, but I have literally watched at least 50 hours, maybe as many hundreds of hours now, of Kent Hovind debates. And Kent Hovind has never used ad hominem. Of course, ad hominem, in case you don't know, is attacking the person instead of the issue or subject at hand. You know, an ad hominem attack would be person A makes a good point, person B says person A is ugly. Person A does not have a degree from an accredited university. They're attacking the person. Person A doesn't have a mansion. Person A was born poor. Person A is an inferior race. Those are all attacking the person but not addressing the point that person A was getting at. Kent Hovind never does that. He talks about the issues, the evidence, not... Look at her. Kent Hovind has never said, in a debate that I've seen, something like, he's got an ugly shirt. He's wrong. He's ugly. He's wrong. He's short. He's wrong. He's fat. Don't listen to him. Never. Yeah. So, in the question and answer section, one of the ridiculous things that one of the students said was Kent Hovind's, and his, I forget his partner's name, their side was using self-serving facts. That was a ridiculous thing to say, because in a debate you have no obligation to prove yourself wrong. That is the other people's duty in the debate, to prove you wrong, not for you to prove yourself wrong. And Kent Hovind just brought up the facts that prove his point. There's nothing wrong with bringing up the facts and evidence that match what you're saying. Alright. Yeah, the guy with the glasses and the grayish hair, he had some ridiculous things to say. I think the rest of this video is going to be me pointing out the ridiculous things he said. One of the most ridiculous arguments I've heard for evolutionism is all the scientists believe it, or the vast majority of scientists believe it. This high percentage of scientists believe it. That is another logical fallacy and argument from authority, but in a debating format, when you have time to speak, you should not cite, you should not use that, you should just say what the actual evidence is that convinced those people. But he just proved why that's a bad argument when he was making that. If he's going to try to get somebody fired from a job as a biology professor at a university because that person does not believe something, then he didn't prove that the person who believes what he wants them to believe is right. They might believe it so they don't get fired. So the fact that there are people trying to get people fired who don't believe in evolution, or they do, but when they're engaging in science are honest about what they're seeing, that proves that that's a bad argument. You know, a great example to make this point, you know, if somebody's going to get punished for what they believe, you can't argue that what they believe proves anything. In the Soviet Union, teachers who thought communism was a bad idea would have been fired, maybe executed or sent to the gulag. They definitely would not have had a job, and they would have suffered if they would have got up in front of a classroom and said, "Students, they're better off in America than we are here." So, it would not be a proof of communism being the best system if you point to the fact that 99% of teachers in the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, USSR, are in favor of communism. Of course they're going to say they're in favor of it so they don't lose their jobs, so they don't suffer. Nothing's proven when somebody's saying an opinion so they don't suffer. Now, yeah, that guy, he's the guy with the glasses and the grayish hair. He's the one that said half-truths a lot of times, but never explained what the full truth was. Maybe because there is no full truth, and Kent Hovind was giving the full truth. Either way, the guy did not address even one point and analyze one point Kent Hovind made. He said, if you believe in microevolution, come all the way and believe in macroevolution. You must believe in macroevolution. That is ridiculous. In fact, well, microevolution shouldn't even be called microevolution. It's so different from macroevolution. But the wording's already out there. It's used. That wording has been used so often that it's the name that it has now. I just micro-flew. And if you don't believe that I can macro-fly, you're an idiot. You're a dimwit. You're stupid, and you should never have a job as a scientist. That's the same logic that this guy used with microevolution and macroevolution. Of course, microevolution is a scientific fact. It has been seen literally millions of times. It is not contested by Christians. There are billions of people in the world. You could find a handful. It's not contested by any kind of significant number. Virtually, let's put it this way, virtually no Christians disbelieve microevolution. In fact, that's one way how we can explain how enough animals were fit onto the ark to repopulate the earth and give us the variety, the different kinds of bear and deer that we have on the earth. Because of microevolution because of the variation that you get within the animals and the DNA. The DNA of many animals and plants is well written so that the animal or plant can survive in different environments. That their body will figure out how to keep itself going when they get more meat or less meat. When a certain nutrient is naturally in the environment and when it isn't. For example, bears create their own vitamin C in their livers. People don't do that. But, bears and the variety of the different fur lengths of the different mammals means that Noah just needed to have on the ark animals with the potential for the different fur lengths in their DNA, and that's how we can have the variety of dog fur lengths and wolf fur lengths. Or should I say canine fur lengths, because canine describes dogs and wolves. Candid is the scientific name for it, candid. And yes, that is proven. That's a fact. But there's nobody who has documented a animal going through dramatic changes to be something else. There have been a lot of people who have drawn pictures of it. But that's not scientific evidence. That's a person drawing a picture. There's been no documented fish becoming a non-fish, lizard becoming mammal, mammal becoming lizard, lizard becoming fish, single-cell animal becoming a multicellular animal. None of that has been documented, seen, witnessed. And that is macroevolution. And since nobody has seen it, documented it, witnessed it, observed it, it is not a scientific fact. It is a belief of some people. It is creative storytelling, but it's not a scientific fact. And so you do not have to believe it. I gave you the example of me microflying. Here's another example. I'm all dressed up because I'm going to a funeral today. I'm going to drive to it in a truck. If you believe that I can drive to a funeral in my truck, you must also believe that I can fly over the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean with my truck. It's moving, it's the same thing. And of course it isn't, there's differences, but in both cases, whether a truck is driving on the road or flying, it's moving. That's the same logic as saying, well, you see, this dog became a little dog, it's moving, it's changing, so you have to believe it changed all the way into a lizard, or vice versa. And, okay, the last, he said, the guy with the glasses and the grayish hair, that DNA provides a way that evolution could happen. When Darwin wrote his book, The Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection, or the Survival of the Preferred Races, that's the full name of the book, not Origin of Species. Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection, or the Survival of the Preferred Races. Which means why we have white people in the world, because white people are superior, according to him, not me. And let's see, so when Darwin wrote the book, we did not know what DNA was. We did not know much about cells, if we knew anything. And this debater in this debate said that now that we have DNA, now we can see how de-evolution would happen, and how a little bit of changes in DNA would just build up till we get the mouse out of the lizard, or the lizard out of the mouse. But here's a problem with that. That's stupid. No, that does not. Actually, that makes it worse. That disproves evolution. Because DNA is language. It's computer coding. It is a 4-letter alphabet that tells our bodies, well, tells everybody, human, animal, plant, what to do, what shape to be, how to process things, color, how much melanin is in the skin, or whether it's going to be a green tree or one of those extremely rare but out there trees that have a bluish color to their leaves, or it's more of a blue-green I've seen in some leaves. Now, you have to acknowledge that fact. That's what DNA is. And so, one, that disproves evolution because language, it's language. Language has to have an intelligence behind it. The wind blowing the sand around in the desert does not spell out John loves Kate. Or Hammond 9631 is married to an older woman. Only 5 years, but she's older, so technically I was accurate in that. The waves rolling against the beach don't spell out it's going to rain tomorrow in any language. You need intelligence to make language. So that's one way that DNA has disproven atheism. But evolution is random changes. Now, if you want to say that God rewrote, I'm completely in with the idea that God started out with DNA for one thing and used some of that DNA to build something else. He'd already had the programming. Of course he did that. There are probably some similar lines in the coding for the Microsoft Outlook and the Microsoft Word and the Microsoft is Excel there? Yeah, Excel. These different things probably have some similar coding because an intelligent person already got something that worked and moved it on over. But evolutionism says no, God did that and it was random. If you randomly change letters around in something, you don't get something viable out of it. If I've got a really bad computer connection, internet connection, and I try to download software and it gets interrupted, I'm not going to go from having Microsoft Word to having Microsoft Outlook or Microsoft Word, or let's find something other than Microsoft. I'm not going to go from having Super Mario Kart to The Legend of Zelda, or a Call of Duty 4. Was there a 4? So I know so little about Call of Duty, but Call of Duty version whatever to Sid Meier's Civilization because of some stuff being garbled in the transmission. You're going to end up with something that's not viable. And that's what would happen to life. The first single-cell organism that has mutations. It's not scientific to believe. It's your religion if you believe it, but you really can't say that scientifically it's plausible for random changes to turn that DNA into a whole nother animal, multicellular, with all the... There's too many changes that would need to be made to the DNA, and if those are random changes, it wouldn't work, especially since what we see now is genetic mutations are harmful. Genetic mutations that are helpful, the ones we can see usually are helpful in the limited scope. Sickle cell anemia is a genetic mutation that helps people that survive malaria, but it kills them because the blood doesn't flow properly. So it is helpful in some circumstances, but they still might die young from it. So that's Yeah, the DNA does not provide a way. Another way to explain this, how DNA does not provide a way for evolution, but disproves it. Imagine if you did not know anything about languages and writing and words, and you saw me reading a book, and I told you that I could just make random changes in it, and it would turn into a whole different book. I could sit at a computer and type out Stephenie Meyer's Twilight, and because I'm a bad typist, it would have errors each time, and after a few times you would have a Stephen King book or an Anne Rice book. Would that make sense? Is that plausible? Even if you give me 1,000,000 times to type it with typographical errors, it's not going to turn into another book. But if you had no knowledge about language and the books, and you thought that there was some magic power in the book that controlled my vocal cords, then that would be believable. That's like what we were in the 1800s, and Darwin made his theory. We didn't realize there was writing inside of our bodies. And so it was more plausible. Darwin's theory was more plausible back then. But now it is less plausible, now that we realize there's writing in it. Now, as to the book metaphor, now imagine if you know about language and writing and words, and I tell you that I'm going to retype The Host by Stephenie Meyer, and I'm a bad typist, so there are going to be errors, but eventually, by me typing it with those errors, you are going to get a Shakespeare play, or I already said Stephen King and Anne Rice, who's another author, and Suzanne Collins' book. The one book is not going to become the other book because of those changes that I make by being a bad typist. Those random changes. And the last thing I want to comment, near the end of the debate, the guy with the glasses and the grayish hair said, that Kent Hovind looks at textbooks, that's very scary to me. He should be more scared about inaccurate textbooks that still have Piltdown Man in it, that still have the Nebraska Man in it, that still have Ernst Haeckel's drawings, which were known to be a lie when Ernst Haeckel was alive, which got Ernst Haeckel fired from his job at a university. He should be more scared about inaccurate textbooks that have stuff that has been proven wrong than whether Kent Hovind is looking at a textbook to find the stuff that's been proven wrong. A real scientist should not be scared of people looking into the evidence for and against their theory. That's science, looking at the evidence. And this guy in this debate apparently is not a real scientist because he doesn't want people looking into the theories. And if I did find out that a textbook was approved by Kent Hovind, I don't know if I'd be nervous about it. If it was like Kent Hovind was the one that assembled a textbook, maybe I would want to look at it to make sure he didn't slip some of his religion into the textbook. But I think it's far more scary when white supremacism, which is what Darwinian evolution is, the white man is the most recently evolved and thus the superior according to that false theory, is in the textbooks. So, thank you for watching this. I encourage you to watch the debate where Kent Hovind mops up the floor with his opponents. And you have a good day. Alrighty.